This very time last year, last fall, we did this, and I covered budgeting. So I don't know, were any of you here for that presentation? If not, don't worry, you'll get a chance to see it this spring. This is kind of a continuation of that. Don't come too well here. This is going to be a kind of a continuation of that, or one specific line item from the budget. So previously I went through, okay, so here's the important things that you look at when setting a budget, kind of prioritize A over B. Paying things like debt are going to have to come before paying for your entertainment, things like that. So I had a lot of feedback. People said, okay, yeah, all right, we were all in for savings and getting started with retirement savings, but how do we go about doing that? So this is kind of a little bit what we wanted to expand on that one particular part. So I start off with this quote. It's been a kind of a cliche, if you will, in the investment industry for quite a while now, but it's not about timing in the market, it's about time in the market. And if any of you are taking finance or accounting classes, you'll learn about the time value of money. For most of you here, I see some really young faces, maybe not even 20 years old. Time is on your side. Time value of money says that if you let your money sit there in an investment returning, the more time you have, the more benefit you're going to receive from it. So there's people that like to play the day trading game, and they want to time the market perfectly when it's down and then sell it perfectly when it's high. And over time, you're going to realize that you benefit more from just having more time in the market. An interesting point, many of you probably remember the 2008 crisis. 2008, the Dow was close to around 14, 15,000. Went to 7,000 like that. So half the value of the Dow, which is the stock market gauge, was wiped out from 08 to 09. People that didn't freak out and pull their money out, they're still there. From then to now, I believe we're right in the 16,000s. We've touched 18,000 in the last year. So we're actually higher now than we were in the stock market before the big crash of 08, 09. So, it takes patience, and unless you are looking to retire in the next 2 to 3 years, don't worry about the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of the stock market. So it's more about time in the market than timing in the market. And if you've seen my budget presentation, this slide came directly from that. It's a good example, though. Let's take a person that is 22 years old, and they say, for the next 10 years, I'm going to contribute $100 a month, $50 a paycheck, you get paid twice a month, to my retirement account. So it goes 10 years. Assuming, for the purposes of this example, we're going to assume a 9% return, which right now you're going, holy cow, I would love to get 9%. But if you go back and look at the stock market back to the 30s, 9% per year return, it's around 7 to 9%, so maybe I'm on the high end for the purposes of this example. So $100 a month for 10 years, that's $1,200 a year, $12,000 total for 10 years. Look at the value of that $12,000 at 65. 65, that number has grown to $326,000. So you contribute $12,000 out of your own money, 9% compound, 10 years for the rest. After you stop contributing 10 years later, you've got $325,000. Another example of a person that waits, they say, you know what, I can't afford to put into my retirement account now. Maybe I need to get a little bit more established in life, pay off some debt, and then I'll start saving. I've got plenty of time before I retire. This person waits till the age of 32, continue, again, $100 a month. So from 32 to 65, 33 years, $100 a month, $1,200 a year is $39,600. At the time of retirement at 65, that person has almost $225,000. $100,000 less than the person that contributed for only 10 years because they had more time on their side. And if you just continue to do that until you're 65, you can have almost $600,000. So you see here, it's beneficial to start as early as you can and to carve out part of your budget for the purposes of saving for retirement. Now, I'm going to discuss a couple different retirement plans. People said, okay, well, again, I'm all on board. You got me sold. I want to save for retirement. What's the next step? I don't know anything about it. So there's two different kind of things two different plans we're going to discuss. An IRA, which is an individual retirement account, and a 401k, which is basically an employer benefit, an employer supplied benefit you get at your job. So, and you'll see the fine print here. Some of the examples I'm going to be giving for this presentation have been simplified for the sake of keeping you from getting too confused. So if there's anybody in here that has more knowledge than me about this, don't say, oh, well, hey, but but what about that and this and that? This stuff is very confusing, I'll even admit. So I'm not the person that you want to come talk to say, what do I need to do for my retirement account? I'm just trying to help broaden your knowledge a little bit. They have professionals, we have professionals at Penn Air that's what they do day in and day out. So I will defer to them for the more intricate details of some of this stuff. But an IRA is the only option you have available to you if you're self-employed. Now, there are different types of IRAs. And I put on here, before you get to that, you must be 21 to participate. And that's for 401ks and IRAs. It doesn't mean you have to be 21 to start saving money. It just means you have to be 21 to start participating in a retirement savings plan. So we have employees at Penn Air that are not 21. They cannot participate on a 401k until they turn 21. But so I put main in parentheses because really there's about 4 or 5 types of IRA, but really it falls into 2 different buckets. A traditional IRA, and I put in here including a SEP IRA. A SEP IRA is a self-employed, so for a self-employed person. So your traditional IRA, all your contributions are tax-free, and withdrawals at retirement are taxed as income. I don't know if I had the wrong one. So what does that mean? Well, you get paid $1,000 for the month, okay? Whatever you decide to contribute to your IRA, and say it's $100. Well, you're going to wipe that off the top first. So now you're down to $900, and you're only paying taxes on $900 versus the whole $1,000. But that money grows and grows and grows and grows, and then at 65 you start taking withdrawals from it. Then you're taxed at regular income. Whatever your income tax is at that time, you start paying taxes on it. So you're going to pay taxes one way or the other. It just is now or later. One of the benefits of a traditional one is you lower your taxable income. So a lot of people who are kind of right over a tax bracket will contribute more to an IRA that will lower them down into a lower tax bracket. The other type of, really the 2 main types, is a Roth IRA, and it's kind of the opposite if you think about it from a traditional IRA, in the fact that you pay taxes on the money now when you put it in, then it grows over time, and when you start making withdrawals on that money, you don't pay taxes on it. So, I know some of the first questions people are thinking, should I do Roth or traditional? And I would say, as with anything else, you want to sit down with your advisor and go over your specific circumstances, because there's not one kind of rule of thumb that applies to all situations. But I do want to point something out here. So, go back to this slide. Remember on this guy, he's contributing a total of $12,000, he or she, $12,000 that ends up with $326,000. On a traditional IRA, this $12,000 that you put into the plan is not taxed. But once you start drawing on this $325,000, you're paying taxes on the whole amount. Versus a Roth, and I personally think that Roths are the best choice for younger people, especially when you're first starting out. But for a Roth, you're going to pay taxes on that $12,000 as taxable income, but when it grows to $325,000, you get to withdraw all that over time tax-free. You don't pay income taxes on it. To me, if your main, and again, when you sit down with your advisor, you'd say, well, what's your goal? I mean, is your goal to pay the least amount of taxes, or is it to have the most amount of money when you retire? Well, I mean, if you're trying to pay less in taxes, I'm going to go with paying taxes on $12,000 all day long versus $325,000. That's why I think, especially for younger, just getting started, especially because, if you're fresh out of college on your first job, you're probably going to be in a lower income tax bracket anyway. Just go ahead and pay the taxes on them now, get that out of the way. Again, I said there's a SEP IRA. Now this is for self-employed persons. what that is, it's basically if you don't work for an employer where they offer a 401k benefit, we're going to get the 401k here in a second. If they don't offer a 401k benefit, the SEP IRA, the main difference between that and a regular traditional IRAs, you're limited up to $5,500 a year is what the max you can put in. Unless you are, I think, 55 years of age, you can catch up and put an additional $1,000 into that. SEP IRAs, which are for self-employed again, there's no $5,500 a year limit on what you can put into it. So they're specifically set up for people that are contractors and self-employed. So, should I go with the IRA or 401k? Well, let's talk about what a 401k is. Again, this is a specific plan that is provided as a benefit by your employer. So when you have the opportunity to participate in these, and I'll use this time to thank Stu and all the people that have come before him, but Penn Air has one of the most generous 401k plans I've ever come across. The way these work, again, must be 21 years to participate. And the main difference in that and a 401k and an IRA is the employer contribution component. Most of them are traditional. Like a traditional IRA, you pay, the contributions are tax-free, the withdrawals are taxable. However, some employers now are moving to offering Roth 401ks as well, so that you can take advantage of the whole pay taxes now, not later type thing. Again, you know, if you're starting out, if you're young, to me, that seems like the smarter choice. Now, we'll get back to this. So the way these work is, again, it's a benefit that's provided by your employer. So no two employers are the same as far as how they're providing. It's just like health insurance. I mean, it's not like if you go to work for Penn Air or if you go to work for, you know, the Studer Group, they're going to have the exact same health insurance. So, I mean, sometimes you pay more for one, less for the other. It depends on what kind of benefit the employer provides for you. So, no two 401k plans are the same. A lot of them, you'll hear 6%. Oh, they match up to 6%. Well, the 6% refers to 6% of your earnings. However much you contribute, the employer will contribute as well. So the employee contribution, you'll hear, is the amount that you choose in pre-tax dollars to be withheld from your paycheck as a percentage of your total earnings. So again, you make $1,000 a month, you say, I want to contribute 10%. That's $100. Lopped off the top before you pay taxes, and it goes into this retirement savings plan. On the flip side, the employer match, that is the amount of dollars that the employer matches based on however much the employee chooses to contribute. So, an example. Again, you say, for this example, we say the employer will match up to 5% of what you contribute. So, if you say I'm going to contribute 1%, they will match 1%. If you say you're going to contribute 4%, they'll match 4%. If you say I'll contribute 5%, 5%. If you say I'll contribute 10%, they'll match you 5%. Some employers you might hear say, we will match 50 cents on the dollar, and this is like a dollar for dollar here, what I'm talking about. So if you put in 5%, they match it 5%. Some of them will say, we'll match you 50 cents on the dollar up to 3%. So if you contribute 6%, they'll match 3%. If you contribute 4%, they'll match 2%. If you contribute 10%, they'll match 3%, because they say 3% is the max they'll go. So the benefits, and you can read this, basically what I go through in this example here is that, you know, the employee earns $50,000 a year. They say, I'll contribute 3% or $1,500, then the employer will match the whole amount. If they go up to 8%, since their limit is 5%, they'll match $2,500 or 5%. So the big benefit of a 401k versus an IRA, and if you're ever come to the crossroads to say which one. Well, if your employer offers a 401k, that is the best possible option you could ever have. I tell people that I work with, you know, if you're not at least contributing up to the maximum amount your employer will match, then you should contribute 1% more, you know. You think you're not getting paid enough? Everybody wishes they were paid more. Contribute more to your 401k if you're not contributing up to the max. You know, another percent you put in, that's another percentage that your employer will match too. You just gave yourself a 1% raise. Another thing is for every dollar you put in, they match it $1. So even if you just leave it in cash and don't even put it in the stock market, your return is 100%. So you will not get those kinds of returns anywhere else. So maximize the amount of money you can put into a 401k plan up to the point that you're receiving the maximum match from your employer. From there, it gets a little tricky. Some schools of thought will say, oh, well, you know, only play up to what your employer matches and then put the rest in an IRA. Well, I mean, there's many different situations for many different people where you can look at the benefits, do kind of a cost-benefit analysis type deal of both options. But I would say the first place you start is if your employer offers it, is start with the 401k. It's really easy. You tell HR, hey, I'm going to contribute 2%, and then starting with your next paycheck, 2% gets taken out, and it's all handled for you. You don't have to do anything. But either call your broker or your financial advisor and say thank you when the market goes up, or say it's all your fault when the market goes down. No, not really. It's not their fault. Some other terms that you'll hear whenever we're talking about 401ks. An eligibility period, and this might refer to, for 401k, usually refers to all benefits that the employer offers, whether it's health care, time off, vacation, paid time off, stuff like that. This is the length of time you must be employed before you're eligible to participate in the plan. And again, like I said on here, this is usually the same for all benefits. At Penn Air, we are, is it 90 days maybe? Something like that maybe. I think you have to be employed 90 days before you're allowed to participate. Another term you'll hear is a vesting period. Now, remember I told you that the employer contributes funds into your plan. A vesting period, for example, at Penn Air's, ours is 3 years. That's a very common one. You must be employed at that employer for at least the vesting period, so 3 years, before you have access to those employer-added funds. So you're contributing $100 a month into this plan. Your employer's contributing $100. It's kind of like they're running parallel. Okay, if you leave in 1 year, you can take the money you contributed with you and go. But you can't take the money that the employer's contributed until you have been there long enough for the vesting period. So, example here, the eligibility period is 6 months and the vesting period is 3 years. After 6 months, you are eligible to start contributing to the plan. The employer's amount will be set aside that's matched, and then after 3 years, it will kind of essentially be swept into your account. So if you leave before 3 years in this example, you don't get to take that money with you. They have no obligation to you. It is not, you only take with you what you contributed. If you're there 3 years and 1 day, you get to take what you contributed plus what your employer contributed. So after 3 years, after the vesting period, that money is officially yours. All right, I want to cover some common myths. And these are things I've heard from just talking to different people. Should I do A or should I do B? First one, I need a job with good benefits before I start saving. Well, companies that offer 401k contributions are great. And again, like I said, that's the best option for you. If you are in a situation where they offer it, go for it and stick with that. But you can always contribute to other ones. If you are self-employed, if you are a contractor, take advantage of the SEP IRA. If not, give the max you can to a regular IRA. I mean, there are still companies out there, I haven't heard of a whole lot of them, but they do exist that will not even offer a 401k plan to any of its employees. Max out the amount that you put into your IRA. Another myth. I should pay for my child's college tuition first. And I will include with this one and a couple more. I should buy a house first. So I should save money and buy a house first. Or I should pay off my student debt first. These all kind of fall into the same category. Yes, I will say yes. Yes to everything. Yes, you should pay off your student debt. Yes, you should probably start saving money to buy a house. And yes, it might not be a bad idea to start saving for your child's college tuition. Unless UWF starts lowering the price of tuition, which I don't think any colleges are going to be doing anytime in the next 30 years. Unfortunately, just like everything else with inflation, prices go up. So, for this particular one, as far as saving for your child's education tuition, this is a great point. Sacrificing your retirement savings for your child's education could end up hurting both of you. If you don't have enough money saved for your retirement years, your child could end up bearing the cost burden for you in later years. Parents move in with children, just like children move back in with their parents. I know many people have had, support parents. And so anyway, the point is you could end up hurting your child more by not saving properly, preparing for your own retirement. Same goes for housing and for student debt. Yes, student debt, credit card debt, car loan debt, any kind of debt you have, you want to pay that off. It's a drag on what money you have available to save. It just may mean if you have higher student debt, maybe you're saving for a house, or in this case, saving for your child's tuition, it may mean that you can only contribute 2-3% to a retirement account versus 10%. Okay, that's great. At least you're making an effort to contribute something, because the more you contribute, the more time you have to let that money grow to, and hey, the other flip side of that is once you get enough money grown, saved, and whatnot, you can retire earlier. Who doesn't want to retire earlier? Another common myth, Social Security will cover all my expenses during retirement. Right now, they're saying 2033 is the year Social Security will run out. That will mean I'm 53 then, so I won't even be, you don't think I'm going to get it? You got to be hopeless. Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme ever. Government-run Ponzi scheme, and once it runs out, nobody gets it. So the way I put it on here is look at Social Security as a bonus, but we need to have a plan for other things. Make sure that you have money for retirement, not hope that the government's going to have enough to help keep you in retirement. Another thing is this year, and a lot of people are going to be upset about this year, Social Security gets adjusted each year for cost of living. Over the last 10 years plus, people are receiving Social Security retirement benefits. It's been going up because the cost of living has been going up. This year, for the first time ever, they're saying, well, not first time ever, but first time since probably there was a 19 in front of the year, Social Security checks are going to be smaller, at least not bigger. The biggest reason that the cost of living adjustment is not going to happen this year is the price of gas has dropped dramatically, and that's a huge, huge portion of that calculation. So even if you're getting Social Security, it changes from year to year based on cost of living adjustments. A couple more myths. One, it's too early for me to start saving. Well, if I put on there for retirement, yes, if you're under 21, it is too early. It can be too early for you to start saving in a retirement plan. I have to get that out specifically. So, it's never too early for you to start saving money. And I'll put on here, see slide 3 of this presentation. Remember, the earlier you start, the more time you have on your hand. And that one was so dumb, I almost didn't even put it on here. Finally, this is one that I don't necessarily hear from 20-somethings. I hear this more from people my age and maybe in their 40s. I will spend less money once I'm retired. I hear that a lot. I won't have a house payment, I won't have kids to pay for, I won't have a car payment. If you have all your debt paid off by the time you retire, you will likely have lower bills, fewer bills, but you will not be eligible for the same tax breaks. Many people find that on the same income in retirement, they're paying higher taxes, therefore lowering their take-home pay. Also, retirement brings a lot of free time. And what do people do in their free time? I want to travel. When I retire, I want to travel. Traveling is very expensive. And finally, the cost of medical expenses is not going down. So, most people do generally see that once they retire, they don't spend less money. My parents just got back from a cruise to Alaska, and I keep telling them, Mom, Dad, you're going to quit spending all your money. I don't want to have to take care of you. I told them that. I told them, go have fun, enjoy it.